welcome Mr. Tom Berra, SLUH class of 1985. Mr. Berra serves on the St. Louis University High School Board of Trustees and the Advancement Committee. He is a highly respected attorney at Lewis Rice, a member of the firm's Management Committee, and serves on the firm's Ethics and Professional Responsibility Council. As an alumnus and past parent, Mr. Berra and his wife, Kelly, have long been supportive of our school. They are here tonight to share with you their excitement for what the Go Forth campaign can do for St. Louis University High. Join me in welcoming Mr. Tom Berra.
Thank you, Luke. As Luke mentioned, I'm a member of the class of 1985. My son graduated in 2012. My brother graduated in 1997. And my wife, Kelly, who's here, co-chaired the auction in 2012 with Diane Fogarty. I thought we were actually going to be in the other space, which was going to feed into my opening story. My first date was with my wife in the old gym at a basketball game in the fall of 1984. And a little vignette into my financial situation. I showed up at the game on our first date, and I went to pay the $2 admission fee to the game, and I had absolutely no money in my pocket. And so she reached into her purse, and she paid for us to get into the game. And she reminds me of that on an almost monthly basis. Just reminded me, 31 years ago, we've hung in there together. I sort of thought about opening with a question, and the question is, how passionate are you about St. Louis University High School? And ask yourself that question, how passionate are you about St. Louis University High School? You're passionate enough to come here tonight when it's probably 22 degrees. It snowed today, it's a Wednesday night. We have a lot of other things to do. We're eating toasted Rabs and cans of Budweiser, which is my favorite beer. But there are a lot of other things that we could be doing tonight. But we're passionate enough about this place that we all came down here tonight to celebrate. This isn't a pitch. Most of the folks in the room have already committed to this program. Most of us have already either given or have committed to give substantial sums to this campaign. And for that, we thank you. But again, ask yourself, how passionate are you? You're passionate enough to be here and celebrate with all of us tonight. And we thank you for that. How did I get to SLUH? Dave was kind enough to ask me to talk tonight about how I got to SLUH and why this particular campaign is important to me and why I'm personally passionate about this place and why I'm involved in this campaign. I was the first member of my family to go to school here. My father was one of 4 boys that went to McBride High School in North St. Louis. Even though they could walk to St. Louis U High from the hill, my oldest uncle thought it was a better idea to stay on the Kings Highway bus, even though he had been admitted, and continue north with his friends who didn't get into St. Louis U High. And the Marianists welcomed him with open arms and said, if you can get into St. Louis U High, young man, you can certainly attend McBride High School, and it's only $50 a semester anyway. When he didn't show up at St. Louis U High by the 4th or 5th day of the school year, one of the Jesuits called my grandmother and said, Mrs. Berra, young Johnny hasn't shown up for school. And she said, Father, that can't possibly be so. He's left here every day and walked down Shaw and caught the bus at Kings Highway. And he said, Mrs. Berra, that's fine, but he hasn't been here. So when he got home, she grabbed him by the ear and pulled him in and said, Johnny, where have you been every day? And he said, well, Mom, my friends couldn't get into St. Louis U High, and I wanted to be with them, so I kept going north to McBride High School. She said, well, do you like it? He said, yeah, it's fine. She said, well, that's fine, you can stay. Sadly, that meant that the next brother and the next brother and the next brother all also ended up at McBride High School. And all of my cousins went to St. Mary's, and everybody was the product of a Marianist education in our family. I went to a high school night at Vianney, another Marianist school, and met Father Leo Dressel, who gave a passionate speech about St. Louis U High. And my mother told me at the end of that night, you're going to St. Louis University High School, whether you like it or not. And I said, Ma, that's fine. Wherever you want me to go to school is okay with me. And I decided to go to St. Louis U High. I did very well on the test, and I received something at graduation called the Presidential Scholarship. And I stood up in front of my class, and my principal got up and announced this and gave me this beautiful blue book that opened up and said Presidential Scholar. And my dad was so proud. He said, this is incredible. You're going to be going to St. Louis U High for free. I said, I don't know, Dad, I don't know what this means. So he called the school the next week, and the Jesuit said, well, Mr. Berra, we're very proud that your son won this award, but I have news for you, there's no financial benefit attached to it. It's essentially an honorarium. He came and he told me that. I said, well, gosh, that doesn't sound very good at all. How are we going to deal with it? He said, I don't know. My dad worked for the government. My mom was a waitress. My dad refereed high school basketball games for the State High School Basketball Association here in St. Louis to earn extra cash for my brothers and me to be able to go to school and do the things that he wanted to do. He was very passionate about Catholic education. Everybody in his family had gone to Catholic school, grade school at St. Ambrose on the Hill, and various high schools in town, because it was important to my grandparents who came from Italy to send their kids to Catholic schools. And my dad felt the same way, even though financially it was going to be a significant stretch for him to do that. So we sat down at the table, and my dad said, I'm not quite sure how we're going to figure this out. This presidential scholarship's not doing us a whole lot of good. Maybe they'll do something for it. So I don't know how it all happened. I was 14. I didn't know, but all I knew is that before I started school, we got a phone call telling me that I had to report to work with Emmett Hannock.
Oh.
I didn't know who Emmett Hannock was. So I showed up to work with Mr. Hannock for football games. I had to clean the stadium on Saturday mornings after Friday night football games at what was then the brand new stadium down the hill here. It was a miserable job. I mean, cleaning up gum from underneath the benches, all the detritus that's left from a football game, but we did that. Then I got moved to Paul Azera's work crew on the second floor, where we emptied trash and cleaned the floors every day from 3:30 to 5. And eventually I worked for Brother Witz, God rest his soul, down in the basement in the summers, where we cleaned out the pits and everything else that we needed to clean out. The one neat story about that was, though, that we found the actual scorebook from the 1961 finals between St. Louis High and Crystal City, where Senator Bill Bradley played the game, the actual handwritten scorebook. I don't know where that thing went, but I wish I still had it. I did that for 4 years. SLUH was about $1,200 my first year. The Jesuits and the school paid about half my tuition. And I worked all 4 years for that half tuition. And someone said in our call the other day, rather passionately, and getting to my opening question, how important is this place to you? How formative was St. Louis High in your life relative to the other things that have occurred to you in your life? And I would humbly submit that for a young man, 14 to 18, that's a pretty formative time. It makes an impression. It launches you into what you're going to do next and what you're going to do after that. And it certainly did that for me. I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. I knew I liked to play soccer, and I did pretty well in school, but I didn't really have a clue. I knew I wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of town. And there were people here that were supportive of that. People like Bonnie Vega and Dave Molden, who helped me see schools that were outside of St. Louis and helped me understand that. And understand that financial aid was available in those places too, just like it was here. I think back to people like Rich Moran and Tom Chemalier and Bill George, who taught me how to read and write. I think about Bill Walker and Paul Stark and Frank Reel and Lou McCabe, and I especially think of Leo Dressel and Tom Cummings, and probably more than anyone, Dick Keefe, and the influence that they had on my life, and helped me think bigger, helped me think outside the box, helped me think about things that were bigger than South St. Louis, bigger than St. Louis High, and certainly bigger than myself. And I especially remember Ebby Dunn. Ebby and I fought like cats and dogs. God, he drove me absolutely crazy. But when we got to the time where I had to make decisions about the rest of my life, Ebby, more than anybody, stuck his neck out for me. He called coaches, he sent letters, he reached out to the coach at Tufts, this little Ivy school in New England that I had never heard of, and that Rich Moran went to. And the two of them said, you need to apply here. And the coach called Ebby one day and said, thank you for putting this kid on to me, and they gave me a spot, and I got on a plane with a steamer trunk on a TWA flight. I landed in Boston, having never been there, never seen the school, never met anybody, found a cabbie that drove me all over Boston, charged me about $100, brought me to my dorm. None of that stuff happens without those guys, without St. Louis High, without somebody reaching out, somebody caring, somebody saying, this kid needs somebody to push him, somebody to think about something different for him and to help him see a bigger and broader world. And they did that for me. They did that for a guy who had absolutely no ability to do that without them. neither the worldview nor the financial wherewithal to make that happen, independent of their good graces and their goodwill. That's what this place is about to me. That's why I'm passionate about it. I want to see kids who come here with a worldview that's about this big and have the great people that work here expand that worldview and make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and take them to places that maybe they never even imagined before they got here. Because that's what this place did for me. I had some crazy ideas and crazy concepts that the folks here helped make true. That's my passion, and I hope that it's yours. Everybody has their own reasons for being here. Everybody's stories are different. The diversity of this place is remarkable. The kids from north and south and east and west, the white kids, the black kids, everybody got along in our class. I had an African-American kid that sat in front of me and behind me. Where I lived on the hill, I didn't know any African-American kids. Okay? But those guys became great friends of mine because they sat in front of me and behind me in the same seats for 4 years. And we got to know each other very well. That's important. That's what this school's about. Being in the city, staying in the city, being affordable for those kids, and allowing them the opportunity to come here and have their worldview expanded. So I wanted to just come here and tell you my personal story, invite you to think about your personal story, your passion, what brings you to this campaign, because it's different from everybody else's that's involved, and then go out and help us sell. You're already committed. You're passionate about it, but we need help. We're at $18 million. That's a big number. But 70 million is a really big number. And I'm not afraid to use the numbers. You have to ask. You have to ask. Humble beggars is what we are, and we need to go out and we need to ask the people to identify their own passions and give as they can to the school and help these kids expand their worldview. So thank you for giving me a few minutes to share my personal story, and thank you for supporting St. Louis High.